You're listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Emanuel.
Mayor Emanuel, Chicago Stories. We're here with our most recent Nobel winner for economics from the University of Chicago, Herr Professor. Is that good, Richard?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I'm sorry, I got to do this. I know it's the typical, so I apologize. What time of morning do they call, and do you think it's a joke when it first happens?
So they call it 4
a.m.
4 a.m. Look, if you are an economist of a certain age, you know this could happen and you know the day. And you can't forget about it because economics is the last one. Mm-hmm. So the whole previous week, every morning, the first thing you hear is the guy who won the physics prize or the chemistry, right? So
and you kind of think to yourself, not that schmuck.
So, I looked at my phone and it said Sweden. And it was 4 a.m, so I knew what it was.
Oh, so that was the dedicated, you kind of knew the area code.
Nobody else, well, no, it literally said Sweden. So I think they've thought about it.
Congratulations,
Thank
man.
you very much.
You must be really, it's got to be a life's work recognition.
Yeah.
I did read one thing that I really loved, though. When they say, don't tell anybody, I go, well, it's 4 a.m. Like, who do you think I'm calling here, man?
Yeah, right. Yeah, don't say anything about this for another hour. Okay. I told my wife.
That's a pledge I can keep.
I did mention it to my wife, who was lying in bed next to me, so I figured.
Did you say, like, who's calling at this time of hour? Was she also kind of a little antsy?
She knew. She knew. And there's a former Chicago booth faculty member on the committee who I know. So
you wanted the Chicago way, little inside. You had an inside track.
I just follow. Vote early and often.
Well, that's what he's supposed to represent the team. He's on the home team, right?
That's right.
All right, he's not going to get a Ferris Bueller parade if he can.
Yeah,
he can put in the boat.
No, that's right.
So you win for studying a life's worth of work on the fact that people are irrational.
Yeah. Which, all right, you don't have to tell me that you already knew that.
I would say that I'm amazed that you could figure out how to get a salary for concluding people, and then coming up with ways to measure and study. Ready? Breaking news: people are irrational.
Well, what I study is a surprise only if you're an economist.
A surprise only if you're an economist.
Right. It's obvious to anybody else. Certainly when I was starting, economists knew I was wrong.
So they knew you were wrong.
Yeah, it's really a lot like the Emperor's New Clothes. You're staring at this naked guy who's a bit overweight, and everybody else is complimenting on his nice suit.
How did you get to that area of economics? That wasn't one, I want to go study that. So was there a light bulb moment or no?
Yeah, well, so I had a list. The closest thing to a light bulb moment, Newton had his apple, I had cashews.
I'm sorry.
Let me explain.
There's a follow-up question, but I'll let you go.
Yeah. When I was in graduate school, I invited some friends over for dinner. Mm-hmm. Food is cooking in the oven. We're having cocktails.
What are we having for dinner?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Probably maybe a roast of some kind because the smells were emanating. And I brought out a bowl of cashews and we were having cocktails. And we started eating these cashews because we're hungry and good smells are coming.
Salt, cashews, more drink, more cashews, more drink.
So after about 5 minutes, half the bowl is gone. And I'm worried about our appetite. So I pick up the bowl of cashews and go and hide it in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And I come back and, this is a room full of economists. And so immediately we start analyzing this.
But you guys really know how to party, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Wild time.
There's a rule of thumb: don't have more than 2 economists at a dinner party, or the conversation will be ruined. So anyway, we started analyzing this. And the analysis went, thank God you got rid of those cashews. But wait a minute, we're not allowed to be happy that you got rid of the cashews. Because the basic axiom of economics is more choices are always better. Used to be we could have cashews or no cashews. Now we have only no cashews. How can we be happy? So I started collecting stories like that. And here's another one. I was working on my thesis with...
Which is the question you're answering is?
The value of a human life. I was trying to answer a problem of the sort that you deal with all the time, which is we can make something safer at what cost? Mm-hmm. So suppose we could make Lakeshore Drive safer by lowering the speed limit. Mm-hmm. Well, that will cost people so much time, and where should we draw the line? Mm-hmm. And the way I was doing it was estimating how much you had to pay people to get them to take risky jobs. And it's a very standard economic analysis. So you assume that the guys who wash windows on tall buildings are making the right calculation.
Mm-hmm. And pain to pleasure.
Yeah. And but while I was doing that, and my thesis was being supervised by a guy called Sherwin Rosen, who later came back to the University of Chicago.
You were at Rochester?
I was at Rochester, yes. But he was a
I wanted
Chicago
some credit
student.
that I know that, okay?
Full credit given.
Okay, all right,
yeah. So, or at least to your staff.
Yeah, well, they did some homework.
Yeah,
before.
they did some homework. Yeah. So I asked people the following pair of questions. Suppose by having this conversation with me today, you've exposed yourself to a rare disease. 1 in 1,000 risk you're going to die. Next week, a quick and painless death. Nothing Zeke can do to help you. But I have a cure in this bottle of water here that I'll sell you. How much are you willing to pay? Okay, that's question 1. You can think about your answer. Question 2.
This is closest I've ever gotten to the rabbi's sermon on Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, okay. Question 2. Over at the hospital, we're doing some research on this disease. Uh-huh. We need volunteers. All you need to do is walk into a room, expose yourself to a 1 in 1,000 risk of death. How much do you need to be paid? So economic theory says those answers should be the same, or at least approximately the same. And people's answers were wildly different. I would pay $5,000. I wouldn't do it for $1 million. Okay, that went on my list. So I just started having this list of
one-offs of examples.
Dumb stuff people do. Mm-hmm. And my advisor just kept telling me, stop with this. Go back to writing Fortran programs and doing statistics. Mm-hmm. But then I discovered the work of 2 Israeli psychologists, Daniel Kahneman
and read the book.
And Amos Tversky. Which book?
The book about them.
Yeah, The Undoing Project.
Yeah, The Undoing. I thought it was really interesting.
So I met them, mm-hmm. and I spent a year with them. They came to Stanford mm-hmm. from Israel for a year, and I went out there and hung out with them, and we became buddies, and they taught me psychology. I taught them economics. And
the rest is history.
Rest is history. In fact, I talked to Danny twice today.
You still stay, obviously?
Oh, we're best of friends.
So let me ask you, give me, obviously you just answered one question, I think, but who are, I have in politics as well as in policy, who are the people that if they write something, no matter what, I'm going to read that in economics and in psychology?
Well, certainly at that time for me,
Right.
the psychologists were these two guys.
Okay.
And they were my mentors, and they had one idea that they had demonstrated that made my career possible. And the idea was that people make mistakes. Of course, that's what you already knew.
Mm-hmm.
The big idea they had was that the mistakes are predictable. And why is that big? Because economists know that people make mistakes, but they say, all right, fine, they make mistakes, but our models will still be right on average. Mm-hmm. But if the mistakes they make are predictable, then the models are wrong predictably.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
so
the insight right there.
that was
Right there.
right, that was it. And here's an example of the kind of predictable error they would find. Suppose we ask people, what's the ratio of homicides, gun deaths by homicide and gun deaths by suicide? Now you will know the answer to that. But if you ask the man on the street, they'll say homicides are 5 times more likely. Mm-hmm. There are twice as many gun deaths by suicide. Mm-hmm. Now, so that's a predictable error, big one.
Right.
And what's the explanation? Their explanation was something they called the availability heuristic. And in simple English, homicides we read about in the paper.
It just comes in with what bias you have beforehand.
Well, no, it's like gun deaths by homicides are noisy, suicides are quiet. So it's a media bias.
There's a different way of, yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right. So so that was the idea that made my career possible.
So now that you told me the great conversation between when two economists get together, what do you do, since people ask me this, what do you do for fun? What's your, like, getting away from all the stuff of theory and coming up with new ways of testing a modeling an idea? What do you like doing?
Well, I'm a late in life golfer. Played down at Beverly.
How'd that go for you?
You know, as long as you keep your wallet in the locker, that's the key. Mm-hmm. Then
you like golf?
I like golf, and I actually play frequently with Gene Fama, who won this prize 4 years ago. And he and I, the outside world think he and I disagree about virtually everything.
This is kind of like Scalia and Ginsburg on the court, always going to dinner.
Right.
They actually did get along. They disagreed. Right.
Right.
So everybody in your world thinks you guys can't see eye to eye.
Right. Now, we actually agree about more things than people realize, and more importantly, we enjoy each other's company, so we can go play golf
And since you
together.
took it up late in life, are you competitive or?
No, neither of us take it seriously. Gene is famous for not believing in short putts.
Not believing in
I mean, he says short putts ruin the game, so his idea of a gimme is 3 club lengths. I think President Clinton may have had a similar.
Let us.
We won't go into
there's
that.
There's a safety zone around. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was about the enjoyment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with Gene, it's how fast you play. He wants to be.
Oh, really? Just
Yeah.
all
He gets
18 in.
there 1 minute before we start, swings it 3 or 4 times, and then goes. And a lot of times he'll go. He's an early morning guy. The course will open at 7. He gets there 5 to 7, grabs a caddy, and tells the caddy, just keep up. And you know, Gene's 76. So
you know this. I've never golfed ever, and I've decided, okay, I'm going the rest. I'm not going to golf. That's chief of staff, senior advisor, father, mayor, congressman. You know,
you don't need a golfer. No.
Yeah, balanced budget. I'm not
dancer. You're a dancer, right? You could. You know, you'd be good at golf because it's all about balance.
A lot of people. So I have, but late in life, I took up fly fishing, and I'm obsessive now
Well, yeah, you don't want to get obsessed with two things.
Well, I love getting out to Montana, and we have a trip. There's a couple of us, Zeke included, my brother. 5 of us, we always go for 4 days, and I just love it.
You know,
but it has the same kind of,
it does.
Science. You have to
know,
measure.
it's precision.
Yeah.
And
that's why I asked if you were competitive about it.
And it's getting away from. I mean, the guys who are competitive about it ruin it. Because you'll have a guy who's a 5 handicap, and he'll shoot a 78 and he'll be unhappy. If I ever shot a 78, I would be jumping up and down. So, you know, why ruin it? I'm out there to have fun.
So Ari Clinton was going on to San Francisco, wanted to golf with somebody. So he just have Ari, and I think it was Larry David. They flew up to San Francisco and went golfing. Ari comes up and goes, "The president cheats." I go, "Oh, really? So tell me something I didn't know." That's yeah. But did you say anything? He goes, "No." I said, "Oh, welcome to. You're telling me he cheated. What happened? You're standing there with him for 18 holes. You didn't say anything to him?" He goes, "No." So,
you know, if you're not playing for money, who cares?
Yeah. So let me ask you, tell me why the University of Chicago Booth School, and you come from Rochester. Do you think that you could have done your work? Obviously, you could have done your work anywhere.
Well, I taught for many years at Cornell.
Right.
The real reason I came here is my wife was teaching at MIT. I was teaching at Cornell. Chicago made us both offers. So that was the practical reason.
There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, living in the same house is good. But
what did she teach?
She taught marketing. She's now given that up and travels around the world taking pictures.
Now, see, we're both of us are idiots. That's a great hobby.
Yeah. No.
I'm not. That's not a job. That's an admirable.
Look, she's smarter and has more sense than me, and hopefully she won't listen to this podcast. But but the attractiveness to me was two things. One, the school wanted to create a group of psychologists, and they wanted me to help do that, even though I'm an economist. But I like hanging out with psychologists.
More than economists.
No, maybe. But
it's okay. Don't worry. You're not going to get thrown off the island.
Yeah.
You can say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The economist, Chicago is known for believing more than anywhere else in this rational economic view. And I thought, I like a good argument. And I think you do too.
Yeah. Yes.
So it was fun to go into the lion's den.
To take on the orthodoxy.
Yeah, and you know what I learned very early in my career is, especially if you were doing stuff controversial.
Are you a middle child?
No, I'm oldest.
Of?
3.
All boys?
Yeah, all boys.
And what's the? Oh, I'm sorry. We're changing the whole subject.
Yeah.
This show.
No, you don't want to go there.
No, I do actually. I think this is. Where's the youngest? Where's everybody?
My middle brother was born on my 2nd birthday.
Oh wow!
I never forgave him.
No kidding. It's your first. It's the first thing you said. I didn't even ask his name yet.
Yeah.
How you guys gotten over this yet? Or
no.
Has he ever golfed with you?
Yes, but not in a while.
Okay. And
let's just say he lives in Scottsdale. Should we leave it at that? Let's not go there.
Where's the youngest one?
He lives in Madison. Okay. And let's say he has different political views than the one in Arizona.
You know, can I say this? You're showing attributes of a middle child, not the eldest.
You know,
I can't.
This is the second time this has happened to me.
Okay.
So when I was on a book tour 2 years ago with my book Misbehaving, which I should plug.
Okay.
Because
wait, do that one more time. What's it about?
It's about misbehaving.
Yeah.
I do a book talk at the 92nd Street Y with Malcolm Gladwell.
Right.
And a friend of ours, a mutual friend, has convinced him that what he ought to do in this is psychoanalyze me. And my friends are all in the front row, and there's 500 people there, and Malcolm is there saying, "So what was your relationship with your father?" And, you know, I thought this was a once in a lifetime thing. And now, you know, I don't know who put you up to this.
No, I just,
You know,
but the way you
uh,
said something triggered a middle child response, not a oldest.
Okay, well, you know.
All right, we have 4 real quick questions. You can handle these.
All
Okay, ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Thick or thin pizza?
Thin.
Okay, interesting. Sox, Cubs.
Cubs.
Lake, River.
Lake.
16-inch, 12-inch. Softball.
You know,
You've never got into that?
I never got into it because I moved here
Jersey.
too late. Yeah, Jersey.
You don't understand the fascination.
With the watermelon sized.
Okay, I'm going to add one more. I just thought of it. I've never done this with anybody else.
All right.
Hancock or what's Sears Willis Tower?
Oh, Hancock.
Why?
It's got some elegance. Sears Tower is like those square things going up to this. Yeah, Hancock.
You know, I got to be honest. Having done this interview, I wish I had taken the economics 101 more seriously when I studied it. You got like actually you're like the economics professor I wanted to have.
Well, the mistake I made was not bringing a copy of one of my crummy books, but I will send you one.
Yeah, I would like that. That would be, you know, I taught a class at Northwestern when I left the Clinton White House.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I did it.
That's that football school up in
Yeah,
Evanston.
I know. Yeah, well, that football school is where one of us did our graduate work, and it was a class on the press and the presidency, the history Roosevelt forward.
Oh, very nice.
It was one of the hardest things I ever did. If you take it seriously, it's very, very hard.
Yeah, blabbing away for all that time, you better have thought about it ahead of time.
You can't.
You can't make it up as you go along, like, say, being mayor.
Or podcasting, or you know, doing an interview.
Right.
Yeah, right. You can't. No.
No.
If you take it seriously and you want the students to walk away with something, so we did it on Friday afternoons. You really have to do work, and not Thursday night. You can't do what you did in college. You can't cram. It's hard.
So am I allowed to ask you a question?
After I was done with one thing, but absolutely. So I started the class and I said, everybody gets an A. Here's what happens. What you do, your midterm, your final, and the class participation will determine whether you keep your A. I don't want to decide that.
Nice.
Is that pretty good? That's a good Jewish guilt, I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So, all right, here's my question.
Yeah.
How does the city and the state ever get out of the financial crisis?
Well, let me speak for myself, for the city. And that is, we're not in the financial crisis. We were. We have actually made significant gains. Now, you happen to be asking me this. Wednesday's the budget speech. And without giving away my news, we have made, we were upgraded to stable from where we were in negative territory by both S&P and Fitch. We have every one of the pensions now is fixed. And we will have gotten rid of every one of the kind of financial gimmicks. The piece of this is, first and foremost, you got to grow the economy. It's not a fiscal thing. The fiscal thing is in service of a growing economy. So when I became mayor, I asked McKinsey to do a study and come back and give us a plan. Anyway, they did it with Brookings, and it showed a number of things that I thought were very important. I said, tell me how to make sure that the next 10 years aren't a lost decade. They said the number one thing in Chicago's advantage is we have a highly educated workforce, and we were at 31%. The country was at 27%. We had a lot of universities, but that strength was diminishing. Go all the way to the end, and I deal with Zimmer, and I deal with Morty up in North, and I deal with all of them. We're at now 39% college educated. The country's at 31. So we grew at 2.5 times over the same window of time. And it's two things, both the graduates from our universities, graduates from the Big Ten, and actually families that used to be 32, 33, they were starting, then they would leave to Evanston and are now staying longer. Of New York, LA, Houston, and Philly, and Chicago, the 5 big cities, Chicago's #1 now. And so The economic growth was the biggest driver. The thing and then investing in transportation, a series of other things. The fiscal thing was showing, one, you had the political will to solve a problem, and were willing to take those on, and two, you actually made significant progress on it. And I think having done that, and we're not done, but we are significantly better. In the meantime of being mayor, the Supreme Court of Illinois made a ruling on benefits. That is, I mean, I can't go against there's nowhere else to go because it's the Supreme Court. I think it's a horrible decision. I think it's a wrong decision. New York has a similar constitution, other states do. Their courts have ruled differently than the Illinois court. So we have shored up our pensions. They're an actual funded mechanism with a revenue stream both from the employee and employer. The state is in a different place. The most important thing is, which is true of Chicago, I'll give you, there's an economist that did a report, our economy each year for the last 6 years grew faster than New York City, DC, and the United States of America, at around 2.1, 2.2. That is the most important thing. The fiscal thing is a tool in the toolbox, not the toolbox. And we're stronger. The biggest thing in public service is not spiking the ball on the 20-yard line, which, and get yourself back in the ditch real quickly. And we, I know you find it shocking, but we can do that.
Well, I'm rooting for you.
Thank you, man.
Because I live here.
Oh, great. I didn't know we were going to interview a taxpayer also. No, I'm joking. I know you.
The first time I met you, I don't know whether you'll remember this, we were chatting, I think at Paul Gray's gallery. So we're chatting, and I said, you're my representative. And you said, bleep, now I have to be nice to you.
I would like to say that doesn't sound like me, but that's hard to say that right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, look, I think you live in the best city in the United States from a quality of life and everything it has to offer.
And as an economist, I'd have to agree because I choose to live here.
Yes, choose. It's a key word for a very rational person. Thanks for making time.
My pleasure.
Again, on a serious note, congratulations. It's a lifetime of work and recognition, and you can't take it from me, well deserved, but they don't make these decisions lightly, even though the fix was in. Clearly you had a booth representative on the committee.
Well, former booth. Thanks, Ram.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Emanuel.